Today, we'll be doing a part 2 review of the Goldenity AI Expert Advisor by Ms. Zuzana Slawinska. This video is sponsored by Prosperity Algo and our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Do you want to make 100+% annual returns through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout? Then click the link in the description. So I did a review of this bot a few months ago, and as you can see here, at the time it had a 5-star review and people seemed generally quite excited about it. But when I ran the actual back tests, I knew that something seemed a bit odd and it looked quite manipulated. Moreover, they were using every sketchy developer's favorite broker of WellTrade to give almost like results which did not look realistic. And since then, if we go back to the page, we can see that not only has the price increased, but there's now hundreds of negative reviews and comments showing that the performance really has let people down. And effectively what we can see here going through some of the reviews is that, as expected, and what I thought, the backtest was clearly faked, and that essentially the developer was doing something so that when you were to run it in backtest versus when you run it live, the results were completely different. And coming through some of these here, we can see that like the live trading does not match the signal at all, the EA is fairly worthless, and essentially the backtest is completely misleading. And all of this is pretty unfortunate, but it goes to show that when you go to evaluate EAs, there's really certain things that you should keep an eye out for. Here we can go to the signal page too, and we can see that the trading history does not match the results that people have been getting either. So like, yes, they have been getting a few losses, but the risk reward here is still quite positive and completely unlike what other people have actually been seeing. If you read some of the comments here too, it really talks about very inverted risk reward with a very low win rate. So ultimately it shows that the two most important factors in determining expected value are both bad. And really it's just purely a random system which was poorly designed, and effectively you weren't able to test it appropriately. So any bot, even good bots, have drawdowns. So having losses or having periods of losses is by no means a sign that a bot is bad. But really the key takeaway here, guys, is that if you see a significant divergence between backtest and live trading, something is wrong. Like, you should be able to run a backtest using the EA over the same time period as your live trading, and the results should match 90+% depending on the strategy. Obviously, if you're running more of a candlestick-based entry, an indicator-based entry, there is a bit more variability, but in certain systems like range-based, more like time-based opening range breakouts, the match I find is close to 100% depending on how you do it. So that's really the takeaway here. It's very easy to manipulate MQL5 signals, so never truly trust the backtest until you also forward test it and reconcile the two systems together. So here we can look at the actual equity curve that I ran. I just ran it, I downloaded the bot and I ran a quick test here too. We can see that it's barely even trading here, so likely there's some degree of manipulation as well, as I just ran an updated backtest. But ultimately the whole thing looks fishy. So maybe the takeaways in this video should be the importance of reconciliation and the importance of auditing the signal. So if you ever see WellTrade in the signal, that's probably not a great sign. If you see a legitimate broker, either a demo or a live account, because good brokers have very similar performance across the two, such as FP Markets or 8cap or IC Markets or any of the big like multi-billion-dollar brokers, that's probably a pretty good sign. But if you see WellTrade, that's probably not a great idea. And ultimately what you should do as a trader is when you run a backtest, go into the backtest tab here, switch to deals, and then look at all the trades that have been executed. And then you can also do this in the visual backtesting mode. And then what I would highly recommend you do, and what I do before launching a bot, is go through it literally line by line to see if those trades are also appearing live. So when you buy a bot, or if you license a bot, or if you trial a bot, get the bot, run it on a demo account for a month or for a couple weeks, and while it's running, also run a backtest over the same period and come through line by line and using an Excel spreadsheet or whatever best like table-based tool you prefer, and just check. And if you see that match, then you can be pretty confident that at least the backtested performance should be pretty comparable with the live performance. One thing you should note here is you need to actually assess if the strategy is likely to be viable long term. Is it overfit? Is there a strong economic premise behind it? But this is definitely one of the easiest things to do to at least make sure the signal is not manipulated. So in the backtest tab, deal, and then line by line, and check that with performance. And really what we're seeing here is that this is clearly a heavily manipulated bot. So ultimately, I don't think anybody is too likely to buy the Goldenity anymore, but it goes to show that this was, as expected, and as I thought in the initial review, really a terrible bot. So kind of not to be too drawn out or repetitive, but reconciliation, very important. Look for good brokers in the signal, very important. And if you can't really see what it's doing, and the backtest is also super slow and takes forever to run, it's probably a pretty bad sign. So let's see how long until this thing is no longer even on the first page, and likely the developer will come out with a different bot under maybe even a different name, because I'm sure you can find somebody just to stick a bot pretty quickly, to use their ID to stick a bot in the marketplace pretty quickly. But from what I can see so far, this thing is turning out to be a pretty big disaster. So guys, if you've had different experiences with it, drop me a comment, but excited to hear your feedback. Take care.